Just because it's in print doesn't mean it's the gospel. People write negative things because they feel that's what sells. Good news to them doesn't sell.
How has it impacted you?
My
touring, records?
album's #1 all over the world. All over the world. America's the only one because I don't want to say too much.
But it's not #1 in the United States.
It's conspiracy, yeah. I will never stop helping and loving people the way Jesus said to. He said, continue to love. Always love. Bring on the children. Imitate the children. Not childish, but childlike.
The return of the black Moors with no fez. It's eerie like that documentary on Lisa Lopez. Pentagrams, pyramids, conspiracies with go-heads. Knock down the levees, knock down the projects. Start another project, build another object. A drive-through touchscreen doctrine for me to digest. Just horses with our blinders on, driving by the obvious. Riding by the obvious, flying by the obvious. Regardless who you vote for, if the mind don't grow and the poverty line don't go, but the dope keep coming and the TV keep flashing images of a sports car, then you bound for a coke war. The meat get clowned by the coke law, the sheep get drowned in the folklore, then lulled to sleep by Tom Brokaw. What a pity. The hope on the politician's tongue never ever trickles down to the city. Yeah. So if a nigga put a president's mask on and run up in the bank with a Mac saying gimme, gimme, I ain't glad at him. But I ain't mad at him. I ain't mad at him. Look, if anybody asks you who I be, say a painter with a felt pen who drew Ali. I'm like Cassius when I blast molasses out the ass of the masses. From Fulton Street Mall to Gratiot, I'm handing out free at last kits. Yo Jay, where your staff at? Green said you threw it, yeah, I outgrew it. Some blog said you blew it, nigga fuck your blog. Jigga Man said you can't knock the hustle, dog. I'm on the same launching pad that shot Russell Long. That's why I stay Dougie. You can ask the tongue, that's why I stay Dougie. That's why I stay Dougie. Ask tumbling dice.
Born in China, I'm still an American because American is based in your pedigree, consanguinity, lineage, ancestry, descent, not where you're born. Your national origin, one's national origin is not determined where one is born. One's national origin is determined by the lineage, genealogy of his mother, not where one's born. So they created this false concept, which is a birthright stealing concept. So they now have defined for us what an American is and what is American not. We're refuting that. We're refuting that definition, and we're refuting their false claim that they're Americans. George Bush, Al Gore, George Washington are not Americans and cannot be.
What are they?
They're English, Irish, Scottish, Germans, French. You see why they indoctrinate us with the Colonnades, Francois Bernier, Johann Friedrich Baumbach, where our people associate identity with complexion to suppress that. So now they walk around. So you got these Europeans who claim to be American. I was born here. I give a rat's ass. You are English, Irish, French, Dutch. Your descent, lineage, ancestry, pedigree, lineage does not change, is not determined where you're born. If you have a couple, both English, mother's English, the woman is English, the man is English. They married couple. They relocate they move from England to China. While in China, they live in China for 20 years. While in China, they have 3 children. What? The children are Chinese now?
No, they
the children were born in China. Now that's part of this concept now. And I bust Europeans' butt on this. I'll bust their butt on this.
Now,
come on, let's talk. Now, you're saying that you're an American because you was born here. That's what you said. I'm American because I was born here.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. All right. Let's see how that works. Let's see how that works. So you're saying that if you were born in China, would you be Chinese? Oh no. Hold on.
Irish Chinese.
Hold on. No. They say no. That no. Let's go with. When I asked them if they were born in China, would they be Chinese? They say no. But you said you are an American because you was born here. So why wouldn't you be Chinese if you were born in China? All right, but you an American because you was born here. I don't get it. Wouldn't that principle be worked everywhere? Wouldn't that work everywhere?
That's right.
I mean, if it's a principle,
that's right.
Or if it's a truth, wouldn't that truth work everywhere? If I was born in England, I'm English. Oh no. Well, why not? See, they don't expect us to talk logically like this. I mean, you got European co-workers who never talk to somebody like me. Because they're like black and white. What color are you? What you look like? I don't talk like that. I'm the first person in their entire life that they talk to on this level. They're not used to talking to somebody like me. They used to talk to somebody, what color are you? Black or white? You know, I challenge the fact that they're white. Ain't no European gonna say they're white around me. They not. I'm the sovereign of this land. So it's understanding, going back to words again. I'm dealing with words, fam. You see the points of etymology?
Right.
You're understanding the proper concept, because as I said before, at onset of the show, that etymology leads you right into your ancestral path, gives you a proper orientation. Connotative meanings actually veers you from or away from your proper orientation. So I'm orientating our people back to their ancestral concepts.
You talked about nationality when the brother Red Pill asked you the first question.
Israel is keeping up a steady stream of attacks on the besieged Gaza Strip, killing 11 more Palestinians in its latest airstrikes. The air raids targeted 4 different locations in the Quds enclave. Officials say 2 of the victims were killed when a strike hit a facility for the disabled in Beit Lahia in northern Gaza. Israel has pounded more than 1,000 targets in the impoverished region since Tuesday. 119 Palestinians, most of them women and children, have lost their lives, and about 800 others have been injured. Tel Aviv has now massed thousands of troops along the Gaza border in preparation for a possible ground incursion. Let's cross over to Gaza and speak to our correspondent Halla Al-Safadi. Halla, last time we spoke to you, the Gaza Strip was still being pounded right behind you. Tell us a bit more about what the situation is like right now.
Well, the last 15 minutes were very intense. We've been hearing explosions all over the Gaza Strip. There were 3 explosions in Gaza City. One targeted a house, and there are some reports about injuries. Another one just took place right now in North Gaza. 2 houses were attacked, and they're calling on ambulances to come, but there's difficulty in reaching those houses. Also, there were heavy attacks on West Gaza City, North Gaza, and both Beit Lahia and Beit Hanun, and there's news that a girl, 1.5-year-old girl, was injured along with her dad. And earlier there was also an attack on the National Bank, and this is confirmed right now. There were about the total of the houses demolished so far are 196, with the latest 3 or 4 houses that were demolished like 15 minutes ago. Also, there's the Salah Benevolent Society was also targeted 15 minutes ago. Or more than 15 minutes ago. This rises the death toll to over 125, with 900 people, over 900 people are actually injured. this night was also another sleepless night. The Gazans actually woke up on only the sounds of the heavy or deadly Israeli cargo, offloading their deadly cargo actually. Also the Ministry of Health has called last night to bring Israel to justice and to actually put Israel or form an international trial against the Israeli violations of a human right, as they targeted, they killed a doctor, they injured a paramedic, and also they targeted an ambulance yesterday and the day before. There were also casualties reported in hospitals such as the European Hospital in Khan Yunis, also Al-Wafa Hospital in East Gaza, and actually there are Human Shield international activists standing since last night in front of Al-Wafa Hospital because it was warned that it would be targeted, and also the Red Crescent societies were also targeted. So basically right now Israel is targeting a number of different places, including hospitals, houses, lands. At the moment of me speaking right now, there's a sound of a huge explosions in the area around us. We will know where this is and also confirm with you. What is really saddening, or the real tragedy here, is about the children. We've been seeing a lot of videos and pictures and actually dead bodies in hospitals of children and innocent children. A person or a human cannot just stand silent in front of those pictures. They bring anyone to tears except for Mahmoud Abbas, obviously, and Ban Ki-moon, and the Israeli community, and those who support Israel aggression on Gaza. Last night, 2 days ago, there was a father crying over his 4-year-old child, dead body, who lost half of his head, and asking him to wake up as he got him some toys and some things. Another dad, his only daughter was critically injured, and he was crying loudly, "Take my blood and give it to my child and bring her back to life." Another 6-year-old boy is laying in bed in a hospital, and basically he doesn't even know that his family was targeted. The situation is only getting harder, kids are being targeted, and the international community stands silent.
Now, Hala, I'll give you a moment to collect yourself there, but for those of our viewers who are watching, as you've just pointed out, the situation is very dire, a humanitarian catastrophe in the making. Palestinians do not know whether their houses will be targeted, whether once they leave the house their loved ones will be safe or not. This is being exacerbated by the fact that the Rafah border crossing is closed. A few dual nationals were allowed to leave, but there are hopes that the Egyptian side would let in some medical supplies. What are the hopes for that? Will that even transpire?
Well, yesterday in Al-Shifa Hospital there was a press conference for the Ministry of Health where they said that they actually run out of number of medical equipment, and they call on the international community and the Egyptian authorities to bring in medications and needed equipment. The Rafah border is closed. It closed yesterday, and they only allowed around 11 injuries to actually cross to Egypt, and plus those who hold an Egyptian passport. The areas crossing yesterday, the Israeli-controlled areas crossing, was also opened only for those who hold foreign passports, and most of the foreigners, around 250, left Gaza Strip by Friday evening. So the situation is totally deteriorating in hospitals. Egypt's situation is, people are actually surprised of what Egypt is doing right now. This is the first time Egypt actually keeps slapping the Palestinian people on their faces since the day one of escalation. We're talking about 900 injuries here. We're talking about kids, innocent kids, and children, and women, and elderly men who are being killed. And until now, what Egypt is doing is nothing. They opened the borders for those who hold Egyptian passports, as if the rest of Palestinians with no Egyptian passports are not human beings, are not people who actually deserve medication by international law. Even like the least of their human rights are being violated, and no one is actually caring of the simplest rights that maybe they don't even talk about in their own countries. Who talks about reaching a hospital for being treated? Who talks about a right for medication? Who talks about a right to get medicine? This is only heard here in Gaza, especially during those difficult days. Gazans are suffering on a daily basis, not to mention the Israeli blockade, not to mention the water shortage and the fuel shortage and the electricity problems. So among all of those, now we're actually suffering a war while the international community chooses to stand silent. And what actually angers Palestinians even more, that they are actually led by the Palestinian Authority Chief Mahmoud Abbas, that seems not to understand what's really happening on the ground and is still calling for peace talks while people are dying, while he actually showed sympathy with those who are killed on the Israeli side, the 3 Israeli settlers who already live in illegal settlements in Palestine, in the occupied lands. So we cannot only blame the international community, but we actually blame a person who claims to be a leader of the Palestinians.
Okay, Halla Savadi, they're reporting from Gaza. Halla, thank you for that update there. Press TV will continue to bring live updates from the Gaza Strip throughout the day, of course.
I'm calling out to the whole wide world. Help me scream and shout that we want peace. Big love to Emmanuel Jal.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm looking for some people who's looking for peace. Maybe together we could make the war cease. Now we can send mankind to the moon, and we can reach to the bottom of the sea. That's why it's really kinda baffles me that we cannot end wars and bring peace, and we cannot change the way people act, and we cannot change the way people think. So if we sit back, chill out and relax, civilization will soon be extinct. That's why I'm calling on the whole wide world. Come on people, would you help me? Let's scream and shout, cause we want peace. To say the least, I dedicate this song to the common people caught in the middle of this common evil. I wish the world was a little bit better. Time to start looking at the man in the mirror. Fear is the devil's policeman. Fear make good genocide with Hitler so he can feel a war of genocide and Amor was weekend. Lighting up the land cause nobody was speaking. That's why I'm calling on the whole wide world. Come on people, would you help me? Let's scream and shout, cause we want peace. To say the least, somebody said after Rwanda, and after Rwanda, and not far from Rwanda, who's gonna shout for the poor people living in Darfur? The world gone deaf, the world gone blind, the world busy sitting down on the behind. Nobody cared about the poor and needy, too busy sucking up to the rich and the greedy. For every hero there's a villain, I am kidding. We gotta shout sending out our sins. One more time, we got no more time. We gotta figure out the way that we could all combine. Like Jericho, the world comes tumbling down. The sound of voices out of cities surround. You know what it's worth, time to put our voices to work. We gotta shake down heaven and earth. That's why I'm calling on the whole wide world. Come on people, would you help me? Let's scream and shout, cause we want peace. To say the least, come on everybody, come on. Stand up, stand up, stand up. You want peace, and I want peace. Stand up, stand up. You want peace, and I want peace. Stand up, stand up.
want peace. We want peace.
We want peace.
We want peace.
Welcome to Sophie & Co. I'm Sophie Shevardnadze. Over 3 years after the tragic earthquake and tsunami that shook Japan, there is still no peace for the victims. Whole towns fled in the wake of the catastrophe and have no hope of ever returning home. How do you cope with a catastrophe of this scale? Well, my guest today is the former mayor of the town of Futaba, which co-hosts the stricken Fukushima nuclear plant, Mr. Katsutaka Edogawa.
On March 11, 2011, a powerful earthquake and tsunami shook Japan, causing one of the worst civil nuclear disasters in history. Despite relief efforts, radioactive material from the crippled Fukushima plant continues to flow into the surrounding environment. Once populated cities in the area are now ghost towns. Will it ever be safe to come back? Does the government still remember the victims of the crisis?
Mr. Edogawa, thanks for being with us today. Now, your town of Futaba was heavily dependent on cash coming from the nuclear reactors. You yourself approved the building of more reactors. Now, did you believe back then that something could go wrong?
Yes, I suspected it might, but I never expected an accident of such proportions.
You said before that you knew right away that the government and TAPCO, the plant's operator, would lie about the consequences of the accident at Fukushima. When exactly did you lose trust in the authorities? Was it when the accident happened, or was it after the accident, judging by the reaction of the government?
This happened when I first met the management of the Fukushima power plant. I asked them about the possibilities of a nuclear accident, pretending that I didn't know anything about it. And it turned out they were unable to answer many of my questions. Frankly, that's when it first crossed my mind that their management didn't have a contingency plan. It was then I realized the facility could be dangerous.
Mr. Edogawa, I would like to go back in time. March 11th, 2011, the day of the devastating earthquake and tsunami that hit Japan. Where were you that day? What do you remember?
I wasn't in Futaba that day. I was in a town nearby, on official business there. And that's when the earthquake hit.
What exactly did you see around you then?
As for the aftermath of the earthquake, there were no destroyed buildings or other wreckage. But I saw all that on my way back to Futaba. As soon as it happened, I jumped into my car and drove home. I managed to get there before the bigger tsunami came. It was only later that I realized that I escaped the massive wave.
I do understand that when a catastrophe of this scale happens, it is very difficult to control your emotions, it is difficult to get hold of yourself, and it's really hard to know what exactly to do. But what were your first actions?
The earthquake was very strong. I just kept thinking, if it's that strong, what will happen to the power plant? What if the reactor is damaged? What if there's a leak? What will the city do? What am I to do as mayor?
I mean, I can only imagine how much worry you felt at that moment. But still, do you remember, what did you do right after the disaster hit?
It took me 20 to 30 minutes to get back to my office in Futaba. There was a traffic jam, so I chose an alternative route along the coast. At that moment, I wasn't thinking about anything, except the fact that I had to get back as soon as possible. I heard a tsunami warning on my car radio. Tsunami waves in the area had never been higher than 60 centimeters before. I thought that even if it's big, the wave would be about 6 meters at most. I had no idea the road I was on could be washed away by the tsunami. I got lucky. The tsunami came after I drove off that road. I got to my office in Futaba and started checking for damage. I checked every floor, and on the fourth one, I looked out the window. Usually, you couldn't see the ocean from there, but at that point, it was just 300 to 500 meters away. It was a truly terrifying sight. I had all these thoughts swirling in my head. What should I do? How do I evacuate people? Where do we run? How do we save ourselves? And I realized that the power plant would be damaged and didn't know what to do if I was serious. Looking back, I think I didn't deal with the crisis well enough. I think I did not ask myself enough questions.
As I understand, you gave orders to evacuate the city right away.
Yes, I didn't sleep at all that night. I was watching television since it was the only source of information. I kept thinking, what should we do about the radiation from Fukushima? How should I inform and evacuate people? Mobile phones didn't work because there was no signal, so radio was the only way to get any information across. On the morning of March 12th, I announced an emergency evacuation. I thought that radiation would not reach the mountains and we would be safe if we left the city. I told people to head to a town just 50 kilometers away, to Kawamata. There's just one road that goes there and it was packed with cars. Later, I learned that not all Futaba residents heard my announcement. I feel incredibly guilty about that. Back then, I believed that residents would be safe in Kawamata. It is much further away from the plant than the government-recommended evacuation zone of 10 to 20 kilometers. Later, I found out that the Fukushima prefecture has withheld a lot of information. And now the government isn't taking any steps to ensure people's safety from radiation, and it isn't even monitoring the implementation of evacuation procedures.
But you decided to evacuate people from Futaba as far as possible without consulting anybody. So you completely assumed responsibility.
Our city always had an emergency plan in case of a fire or an accident at the plant. Every year we had special drills in case there's a fire at the plant. I think it's the central government and the Fukushima prefecture authorities that bear the brunt of responsibility for what happened. And as Futaba's mayor, it was my responsibility to take care of the people of my city. I had no time to get any advice. I tried talking to prefecture authorities, but there was absolute chaos. It was impossible to hold a meeting. So I chose to act on my own, and I decided to start with evacuating people as far from radiation as possible.
Your town has moved to a new location, to the neighboring city of Iwaki. Is it safe there, and do you see this as a new start for these people?
I'd like to show you a table with radiation levels around Chernobyl. Radiation levels around Fukushima are 4 times higher than in Chernobyl. So I think it's too early for people to come back to Fukushima prefecture. Here you can see radiation levels in our region, Tohoku. This is the epicenter of the earthquake, and the radiation radius is 50 to 100 kilometers, even 200 kilometers in fact. Fukushima prefecture is at the very center of this. The city of Iwaki, where Futaba citizens moved, is also located in Fukushima prefecture. It is by no means safe, no matter what the government says. Exposing people to the current level of radiation in Fukushima is a violation of human rights. It's terrible.
But nevertheless, evacuation advisories are started to be lifted for some cities in the Fukushima area. But you're saying that the government is allowing this despite the danger of radiation?
The Fukushima prefecture has launched a Come Home campaign. In many cases, evacuees are forced to return. Here's a map of Fukushima prefecture, with areas hit by radiation highlighted in yellow, and you can see that the color covers almost the entire map. Air contamination decreased a little, but soil contamination remains high. And there are still about 2 million people living in the prefecture, who have all sorts of medical issues. The authorities claim this has nothing to do with the radiation fallout from Fukushima, but I demanded that the authorities substantiate their claim in writing, yet they ignored my request. There are some terrible things going on in Fukushima. I remember being touched to the core by the plight of the victims of Chernobyl. I could barely hold back tears whenever I heard any reports about that terrible tragedy. And now, when a similar tragedy happened in Fukushima, there's no one to help us. We must not forget the lessons of Chernobyl. We must protect our children. I talked to local authorities in different places in Fukushima, but no one would listen to me. They believe what the government says, while in reality, radiation is still there, and it is killing our children. They are dying of heart conditions, asthma, leukemia, thyroid complications. Lots of kids are extremely exhausted after school. Others are simply unable to attend PE classes. But the authorities are still hiding the truth from us, and I don't know why. Don't they have children of their own? It hurts so much to know that they can't protect our children.
But I understand many children who have been evacuated are now living in the Fukushima district again. New schools have opened for these children, and you're saying that they're facing radiation there. Is anything being done to help the children affected by the nuclear fallout?
Officially, both the central government and the prefecture authorities say there is no radiation. They're not doing anything, and they're not going to do anything. They say Fukushima prefecture is safe, and that's why nobody's working to evacuate children, move them elsewhere. We're not even allowed to discuss this.
All right, Mr. Dagawa, thank you. We're going to take...
Hello, I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us today, a brand new guest. Her name is Karen Hudes. She is an attorney, she is a banker, and she is a whistleblower. Karen Hudes, thank you so much for joining us today from Maryland. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I couldn't be happier than to be here on your show.
Well, you work for the World Bank for a better part of 20 years. You are an Ivy League trained attorney. You went to Ivy League school. I think you went to Yale. You work for the World Bank as a lawyer. You're a banker, and you were a whistleblower inside the World Bank, not just one time, but several times. It crescendoed with a big, almost $1 billion, whistleblowing fraud, malfeasance in the World Bank in Indonesia. And for that, you got a pink slip in 2009. Congratulations, my dear.
Thank you.
You are one of the good people. Listen, I called you the other day on the pre-interview, and I said, Karen Hudes? She said, yes. And I said, boy, I want to interview you about, I have you all set up. I want to just do a little pre-interview about banking. And I said, boy, things are a mess, huh? Oh, no. Things aren't a mess. No, we can fix this. And I was like, wow, this is refreshing. And you said, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody in the world knows what's going on with America. We know who the thugs and the criminals are. And you made a reference to a baby. Tell me how the rest of the world is looking at our Federal Reserve and our banking system and how the U.S. is acting in the global world of finance.
Well, their game is up. When they were signed on 100 years ago, President Wilson knew that he had sold the United States downstream. And he really regretted it. And there were a couple of presidents who tried to set things straight. And both of those ended up assassinated. One of them was JFK. One of them was Abraham Lincoln. And our current president, Barack Obama, is trying very hard to do what he can to make it possible for those of us in the know to fire these thugs. He doesn't want to get himself shot. He's leaving it up to us. And we're doing a good job. I've been in touch with all 50 governors. There's a special governor's council, which has one of the co-chairs is my governor, Martin O'Malley. And I've been writing to these guys, and I've been saying, okay, we are not going to let our country get sold downstream. You are going to do your job. And, it's not an easy thing to do. it's pretty dangerous. People have gotten into a lot of hot water for standing up to these thugs and crooks. And by the way, you don't have to take my word for it. There's a very accurate study that was done by the Federal Institute of Technology. They used data showing who owns all of the world's corporations, 43,000 of them. And they showed that there is a group of thugs that have bought these companies up and controls them behind the scenes. A lot of this is secret. You won't read about it in the press because they bought up the media. So the stories that people are hearing every day from their favorite newscast, this is all, what those companies want you to know, not what the reality is. And a lot of people are onto this. I think the latest survey about the trust of the American people in their media, it's tanked. It's, most people, more than a majority, knows that they're being systematically lied to by these thugs. So anyway, getting back to the Federal Reserve and the Bank for International Settlements, these groups are in cahoots with the biggest crooks of all, the Jesuits that bought up Bank of America, and they have little secret deals to try to apportion the riches of the world. And in the meantime, all of the countries of the world know that this thievery is going on, and we have been working together. I've been writing all of the ambassadors for the last 5 years since I was fired illegally. They knew I was their lawyer. They knew I was telling them the truth. And I said, you're not going to get away with this. And there's a group of World Bank whistleblowers from different countries, and one of them in particular, Elaine Colville, who's Scottish. The two of us have been writing to the UK Parliament, and the UK Parliament on the 20th of July just published our statements. My statement was, okay, guys, we're running out of time. It's time to get serious and tell these thugs and crooks that they're fired. And Elaine Colville said the UK Parliament better do its job. And that's up there for everybody to read.
Well, you're talking about being fired. You were telling me in the interview yesterday, and I want to work on this, and it's a theme that a lot of people have brought up on my side, a lot of very smart people, and you're kind of backing them up, and you're saying the rest of the world doesn't want to live under this yoke of the Federal Reserve, the Treasury system. They want to get rid of the dollar. They want to do away with the dollar. There's inflation, and what a lot of people are talking about is, this uprising in Egypt is fueled in part with all this inflation, and we are exporting inflation around the world, and governments are saying, hey, hold on with the dollars. We don't know if we need any more of these dollars. We want to use a different currency, a gold-backed currency, a Bitcoin. Hungary has, got rid of the euro supposedly, and they're issuing their own currency so they can get away from the inflation. Is that what you're seeing? A move away from the dollar on a grand scale?
Okay, what I'm saying is that we don't have to wait for anybody to fire the Fed or the Bank for International Settlement, because all the central bankers are part of this big club in Switzerland. What we should simply do is use our choice. The states, some of them, have already started recognizing silver and gold, the precious metals, as currency. They're entitled to do this. They should do this. There are other alternatives like Bitcoin, and there are other bankers that have set up currencies that are backed fully by precious metals, and we, the consumers, can choose which currencies to use that are legal. And that's what we're going to do in very short order. Because I can tell you, and you didn't follow up on one of the things I just said, so I'll say it again. We are talking about the biggest thuggery of all, and that is the Jesuits in the Vatican. And one of the things I have just found out,
well,
because
the new Pope is a Jesuit, right?
That's right. And what
there have
these
been
people
reports
have done,
published reports of the allegations of the Vatican laundering money on a grand scale. I haven't heard too much about that recently, but that's I think that was before their most recent Pope got put in there. But yes, I mean, they have some sin there, don't they?
Greg, I'm going to tell you something which I just found out about, because let me step back a little bit and say how I got involved in all of this. They say follow the money. That's what I did. I saw that people were being lied to about the money, and you're not allowed to do that. When bonds are issued on the capital markets, and I bought a World Bank bond, you're entitled to accurate financial statements, and they were not being audited according to the auditing standards. So I sued the World Bank, and I sued KPMG, and then 188 ministers of finance settled my lawsuit. But I couldn't get that thing implemented. So I was trying to find out why not. And let me tell you what I just found out. I always thought that the CIA was the problem and the other intelligence agencies. Guess what? There's a grand intelligence agency that the Vatican puts out, and all of those other crooks are operating under the Vatican intelligence agency.
The money
That's what's going on.
The money is about the control, and the Vatican intelligence agency, the World intelligence agency, they're talking about we're fighting over money, over what money we're going to use, and who controls the money.
That's the thing I'm saying, Greg. They're not fighting. They've all agreed. The fighting is what we're led to believe. They're all in cahoots. Just like all the banks are in cahoots, all of these intelligence agencies are in cahoots too. So we are completely being bamboozled. It's like a big theater of the absurd for the world. And in the meantime, every single citizen is getting ripped off, big time. It's all an agreed. For example, what's going on in Syria? I'll tell you what's going on in Syria, and this is because I'm not working just by myself. I'm working with a lot of whistleblowers, and there's one whistleblower in particular.
And just so you know, you're in contact with World Bank members also around the globe.
Yes. There's one of us from India. There's one of us from Ethiopia. I forgot the last time I mentioned the list. I forgot one of the best, most intelligent of us is from South Korea, and we are all working together. Just like these thugs are working together, but I was going to mention about what Mark told me about Syria. What's really going on is that there's natural gas, but you have to have a pipeline to get it to the market. So Qatar, which has all this natural gas, wanted to run a pipeline through Syria, and then they were going to reach the European market. Well, who's supplying the European market with gas?
The Russians.
The Russians. Okay. Saudi Arabia went to the Russians and said, if you stop protecting Syria, then we're going to sell you arms for cheap. And Russia said, no, I want my market for natural gas in Europe. So all of this business about dead babies and sarin gas, that is just all to keep us confused. Everything that's going on in the news is simply to keep us confused. We don't need to be confused. What we need to do is we need to turn around to these crooks, with the crooks at the very top, and we need to say, no. Well, you're not going to rip us off anymore.
Well,
We've had enough.
I know you speak fondly of the president, and he is my president, and I have respect for the office, but he has signed into law the NDAA, where you can, drag somebody off and hold them intentionally, and, any quote-unquote terrorist. He has made all these drone strikes. I mean, his Justice Department just put Jesse Jackson Jr. in jail, and not a single one of these bankers has been tried, including people who have done money laundering for drug cartels and for people on the terror watch list. We have Jesse Jackson Jr. in jail for 30 months for $750,000, and John Corzine allegedly stole $1 billion. So, these guys are running wild.
He's an actor. He's told to play his part.
Oh, that's sad.
It is, but everybody is an actor.
Let me back up here. You're telling me the president is just an actor, just somebody to play a role, and don't get in our way. You're really not the president. We say you are, but you're not.
What I'm trying to say is that those presidents of ours who refused to go along with these crooks' agenda got murdered. All of them. And so there's a little bit of leeway, and they're doing what they can. And don't forget, we have to play our part, which is we have to admit that we have been bamboozled, and we're not going to be bamboozled anymore. And we will then take back what's ours. We won't let the crooks continue to rob us.
But this is
We've got a role to play.
This is going to be a painful process. I mean, they're going to come out and say, "Oh, you want your accounts insured? Well, you have to take a bail-in. Do you want your?" I mean, this is what they're going to say. This is what they said over in Cyprus, which a lot of people say the IMF was involved, the ECB was involved, that this was a test market, Cyprus. And you want your insured deposits? Well, you have to agree to bail-ins. You have to agree to haircuts. You have to agree to all this stuff. And
that is only, Greg, if we stay stuck at one level of the theater. We don't have to stay stuck at that level. We can go up to the different level, which is what I'm telling you. Not just the central bankers, but the Vatican. For example, people don't know that their IRS revenue is going to the Vatican. They don't know that the municipalities are pre-funding their pensions for billions of dollars when it's unnecessary. We have got to sit down and we've got to follow the money and figure out where it's going and say, okay, that's our money, that's not your money. And
you follow drugs, you get drug addicts and drug dealers. But you start to follow the money, and you don't know where the fuck it's going to take you.
Your money, and we have to take it back. That's all.
Isn't this going to be painful? Aren't there going to be defaults? Aren't there going to be? I mean, a guy rates me, I've said this a couple times in interviews, from Detroit, 29 years with a firefighter or police officer. His funding for his pension is $9 billion in red ink, and they're going to get pennies on the dollar. And, I hear that, bankers are going to get 75 cents on the dollar, but pensioners are going to get 20, 10, 15 cents on the dollar. I mean, there are $3.7 trillion underfunded pensions. We have $10.8 trillion on deposit. We have $33 billion in insurance. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of defaults, isn't there? I mean, is it going to be painful to take it back?
At the wrong level of the play. You are looking at paper currency. There was an agreement starting in the early 1900s to take all of the wealth of the world, the treasures, the gold, the diamonds, priceless treasures. These are now in a big vault in different places, buried. And this all can come out. But it's not going to come out until people start recognizing this reality. We have all got to look beyond. We have to pierce the corporate veil. That's the statement in law. When you look behind who owns the corporations, we have to pierce the corporate veil. We have to, all of us, do our homework. We can't say, oh, money is too complicated. Central banks are too complicated. We have all got to sit down and come to the table and see what's the real story. And we have to be responsible about it. And then we'll agree that we played a part too. We were bamboozled. We allowed these bankers to buy up media and tell us lies and accept the lies, one story after another. Are we going to look at the fake reels about dead women and children from chemical warfare? Chances are those were actors.
I got to tell you, I would think you were absolutely crazy if I didn't know and I went online and saw your resume and saw your deep resume and saw you work for the World Bank for 20 years and know you're an attorney or you were the senior counsel for the World Bank. And this is just eye-opening to hear you talk like this. I'm not putting you down. I'm just saying people should realize that you're not a kook. You were 20 years with the World Bank as their senior counsel. You were connected to world bankers globally and other whistleblowers. And you're saying that we've been robbed. And we are being robbed.
Patrice O'Neal, so many other issues to discuss. There is an awakening happening out there. And that's why they put these fake leaders out like Obama and then whatever the next right-wing leader is going to be. And my point is, we are so far down this line. They're building this domestic control grid that is designed for we the people. We had better wake up and come together now for the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, for the Second Amendment, or it's over.
Well, I don't think it could be done without our help. I mean, that's what I'm saying about, I believe, wholeheartely in this idea of an Illuminati, of a new world order, of the banking system. But it's the more people I meet and the more people that don't care, I think, to me, if I had a crusade, it would be to figure out how do you get the average person to I know the banking system opened my mind. That is what was the most important thing. If somebody came at me and said, hey, look, they're trying to get the world down to 500,000 people. There's some people that just want to kill everybody and get it down to 500,000 people and control them. I'm like, okay, whatever. It sounds good. But when somebody just says the bank is private and the government borrows money and to pay them back, or the idea of the gold standard. Didn't know what it was, didn't care what it was. Once I understood why gold exists, I'm going, now it doesn't. We're not on the gold standard now. We're on the debt standard. The fact that I owe money means that we have money. It's shocking to me. Then if I know they can do that, I move to the next thing and the next thing, and then I go, oh man. And as a comic, it slows me down. So I'm trying to, because I know Bill Hicks, man, he was open. He was open to it all. And when you're open to it all, it could drive you insane with wanting to put the information out. But I've learned how to throw it in a little bit, make a person laugh, and then hopefully if I throw a little info out and a person laughs, it's like when you say go look at HR this and go look at the executive order that, it just, maybe they'll go look and it'll open their mind and then they can go. But the fact of dealing with people, man, people are not doing the right thing when it comes to this, man. There's a couple of people out there, and when I say a couple, if 1 million people are into it, that's not enough, man. That's just not enough. They can round up 1 million people easy, but we need 50 million, 60 million.
No, you're right. It is a life and death situation to wake up as many people. I mean, individuals who wake up and get really informed, they need to understand they've got a responsibility now to reach out to others. And the system before could just deny and say we were liars. Now they try to come out and go, okay, we lied about global warming, but the UN said this 2 days ago, but it's about population reduction, so we've got to do this. So, or the CIA comes out and says, okay, we did put out fake bin Laden videos. Okay, we are growing the opium. They're trying to really steal our thunder and just kind of put it out there in our face.
It's because it's too late. At 500 million bad eggs. I'm going, I said, do you hear that? 500 million bad eggs. And you go, and when I say to people, it's because a lot of people didn't take the vaccine that they had to grow in the eggs. So they're like, hey, since they didn't take them, let's just put them back out. People dropping dead from the vaccine eggs that they, you had to grow the H1N1 inside the eggs. And it's just like, it didn't work. So now they just got these eggs sitting around and they try to put them out there. Those eggs are now poison. Now they got to figure out salmonella. I'm like, look, there's no way 500 million eggs got salmonella poisoning in it. But people go, well, that's what they told me. And I go,
Tree, stay there.
Salvation, Allah, Unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America. The Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or falsely accuse his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, You are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites, whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder.
Green Street Studios, shout out to Green Street.
Jay Lindbergh's gonna love this.
I know, right?
Yeah, I ain't catching them.
Trust that.
Sure you want to do it in front of the pink pants? Nah, I'm fucking with you.
Yeah, right, let me get away from the pink pants.
You should go on that side. You might
Yeah, I saw you. I'm gonna switch it around.
Alright, so yo, this is the new joint, the Ecstatic. That's a still from Killer of Sheep. This is the back, Moorish Science Temple. And there is no producers list on this run, but there's more to come. This is not the end. The Ecstatic is ever evolving. But I just wanted to put it out there, let people know, give shout out to all the producers that worked on the record. Super Magic produced by Oh No. Shout out to Oh No and the Oxnard crew. Twilight Speedball produced by Chad Hugo with additional production from myself. Synths and the keyboards that you hear, that's me. Auditorium produced by Madlib. Production from me as well, featuring Slick Rick. I just arranged it, you know. Madlib did the beats, and I put it in order. Priorities, preservation. Oh, Wahid is also Madlib as well. That's complete Madlib production. Priorities, preservation, as well as Quiet Dog by Heart. Life in Marvelous Times, my man from Paris, Mr. Flash, as well as the Embassy. Noyan Alamas is DJ Preservation. Pistola is Oh No. Pretty Dancer is Madlib. Genius once again. Workers' Comp is once again the esteemed gentleman from Paris, Mr. Flash. Revelations once again, Madlib. Roses is by Georgianne Mojo, written, performed, and played by, featuring me. History is the legendary Dilla, featuring my brother Kweli, and Casa Bey is Ecstatic Rhythms of Boogeyman Productions, yours truly, Mr. Bey. So, there it is. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time. I won't open this and give too many surprises away, but I think it's worth your time and attention. God is great, God is good, life is awesome. Be well. God bless. Peace.
Hold that up. Just give a shout out to the blog.
Peace. Shout out.
Got an ETV.
Peace. It's most. We got an ETV. That's what we gotta do. Gotta eat the gym. One.
See the back one too?
What joint going on?